The universe had always been full of mysteries, but nothing was quite like the story of the Phoenix, a ship that had vanished into the black void of space nearly half a century ago, leaving only whispers and legends in its wake. No one knew why it disappeared or what had happened to its crew, but the Phoenix became a symbol, an impossible dream for the brave and a warning to the fearful. Deep in the Lichten Nebula, where space folded in on itself and time felt like it had no meaning, the Phoenix had simply disappeared. As the years passed, it became a tale mothers told their children to keep them from wandering too far into the unknown. When the first faint signal came through from the outskirts of Sector 12, Command dismissed it as nothing more than static, perhaps a broken satellite or another echo from a timeline they couldn't understand. But the signal kept repeating, and there was something strange about its frequency, something that didn't quite fit. The Phoenix? Impossible. No one believed it. It had been too long, and nothing in the galaxy had ever been able to survive the horrors of the Lichten Nebula for that long. Still, a scout ship was dispatched. They needed to know, to confirm it wasn't some sort of trap. It wasn't until Commander Lee stepped onto the Phoenix's old, abandoned bridge that the truth hit him with the force of a physical blow. The ship was real, and it was there, intact, as if it had never left. There was no dust, no signs of aging. The ship's metal hull gleamed under the dim lights of the command room, shimmering with strange energies. It didn't look like the Phoenix of old. It had evolved, transformed in ways that were beyond anything human technology could comprehend. But the most shocking discovery came when the airlock opened, and they expected to find the crew. Dead or perhaps frozen in time, but still lifeless. Instead, they found them alive, but not quite. Their bodies were still almost suspended in time, as though they were in a never-ending moment, neither aging nor decaying. Their eyes flickered occasionally, but their bodies were eerily still, glowing faintly beneath the ship's flickering lights. The crew wasn't dead. They were something else, something far worse. Commander Lee tried to contact command, but the signal was lost every time he ventured too far from the ship. Something inside the Phoenix was scrambling everything. He knew it, but he couldn't leave. He had to understand what had happened here. After docking the ship at the nearby station, it didn't take long for the scientists to get involved. Dr. Emily Torres, a leading astrophysicist and one of the first to board, was eager to study the Phoenix. She'd heard the rumors, the theories that this ship might hold the key to untold power. But what she found was beyond anything she could have imagined. Materials unlike anything in Earth's records, energy fields resonating in frequencies she couldn't measure. She didn't know it yet, but this discovery would change everything. Her first report was cautious, detailing strange isotopes and anomalous energy patterns. But then she added something that changed the course of everything. I believe this ship is no longer entirely human in origin. It's been modified, and not by us. The room went silent. What had begun as a scientific anomaly was quickly becoming something far more dangerous. Within hours, Luna Base was crawling with Federation operatives, deep sector teams, and covert agents from the Chancellor's own division. No one knew what they were dealing with, but the truth was clear. This was bigger than anyone had expected, and as the Phoenix was sealed off, its crew frozen in stasis, a storm was brewing. Dr. Torres, unable to leave her obsession behind, slipped past the guards one night. She had to know more. The ship had something it wanted to tell her. She made her way to the heart of the ship, to the chamber no one had ever found before. There, she found it. The core was a dark, pulsating sphere, not made of metal or wire, but something alive, something grown. It hummed with a strange energy, and as Dr. Torres reached out to touch it, her mind was flooded with visions, a future far beyond humanity's reach. She saw a war, a species so ancient it made her bones ache just thinking about them. These creatures feared humanity, not because of their technology, but because of their potential to disrupt everything. The Phoenix, it wasn't just a ship. It was a weapon, a symbol, a tool of survival. It had been transformed by something not of this world, and now it carried the message of a war to come. She stumbled back, her breath sharp and her mind racing. The core spoke without words, filling her thoughts with a terrifying truth. Humanity had been marked not for extinction, but for something worse. The future humanity faced wasn't just about survival, it was about evolution, and the Phoenix, it had been waiting for them, waiting for Earth to be ready. Dr. Torres couldn't shake the feeling that something profound had just shifted within her. The visions from the core hadn't just been images of war, fear, and destruction. They had been something more personal. She could feel the weight of their implications press down on her like a thick fog, stifling her thoughts. She had always considered herself a scientist, a rational thinker, but what she had just experienced defied every law of physics, biology, and logic she had ever studied. The core wasn't just an object, it was alive, conscious, and it was trying to communicate something crucial. The air around her crackled with energy as she took in the sight of the core again. Its pulsating black surface seemed to shimmer and ripple, as if it were alive, breathing even. The strange alien script on the walls continued to twist and shimmer, patterns forming and shifting in a way that made her head spin. Dr. Torres pressed her hand to the cool metal of the chamber wall, her fingers trembling. She had learned to resist panic in the face of impossible circumstances, but right now, she wasn't sure how much longer she could hold on. She wasn't just dealing with an unknown alien technology anymore. She was dealing with a force far older than anything humanity had ever encountered, a force that had witnessed the rise and fall of entire civilizations and one that had chosen Earth as its next target. A voice, or rather a sensation, filled her mind once more. It wasn't a voice in the traditional sense. It was more like a whisper within her thoughts, a feeling that flooded her consciousness. The time of humans is at hand. They must evolve, or they will be erased. The words weren't spoken in language, but in pure meaning, emotion, and understanding. It was as though the core had touched her mind and implanted a truth so deep that it had become a part of her, altering her very perception of the universe. Dr. Torres took a shaky step back from the core, trying to ground herself, but the reality of what she had seen and what she had just felt kept pulling her further into its grasp. The Phoenix wasn't just a ship that had been lost to time. It had been changed, modified by something not of this world, something that had known humanity's potential long before Earth had even discovered space travel. And now that something was coming for Earth. The core wasn't a warning, it was a message, a prophecy. The vision it had shared with her wasn't just about the devastation of the future, it was about how humanity would fight back, how they would evolve. "You are the bridge." The words came again, not spoken aloud, but filling her head in a pulse of urgency. Dr. Torres staggered to her feet, heart pounding. The core had chosen her, just as it had chosen the Phoenix and its crew. It was waiting for humanity to catch up. But the question remained, could they? Could they evolve fast enough to fight back against what was coming? She didn't have the answers, but the only thing she knew for sure was that she had to get back to the others. The core's vision had been clear. It wasn't enough for Earth to survive. Humanity had to become something more. And the Phoenix was the key. The ship, with all its strange organic modifications, had been transformed into a living vessel of knowledge, carrying with it the blueprint of what Earth's future could and should look like. But there was one crucial problem. The galaxy was full of species that didn't want humanity to evolve, to become what the core had hinted at. something far more dangerous, something that would shatter the careful balance the universe had maintained for eons. As Dr. Torres turned to leave the chamber, a sudden tremor shook the ship, followed by an unnatural hum that reverberated through the walls. It was a low, rhythmic sound, almost like a heartbeat, one that seemed to synchronize with her own. She hesitated, instinctively reaching for her communicator, but the signal was still dead. She cursed under her breath, knowing that any attempt to contact Luna Base would be futile. There was something happening here, something that the Phoenix was doing, and she wasn't sure if it was preparing to defend itself or if it was calling something in. She didn't know what it was, but she was certain that whatever it wasn't good. Without another word, Dr. Torres made her way back to the command deck. She needed to find Commander Lee, needed to understand what was happening. The Phoenix had shown her glimpses of the future, of a war between species, of a fight for survival against an ancient, godlike enemy that had already begun to move. But the most terrifying part was the realization that humanity wasn't being targeted because they were weak. No, they were being targeted because they were strong. They were a chaotic force, unpredictable, creative, everything that the ancient species feared. She reached the command deck and found Commander Lee staring out at the void, his face drawn tight with concern. He looked up as she entered, his gaze sharp. He didn't need to ask her where she had been. He could tell by the look on her face that something had changed, something profound. "What did you find?" he asked quietly. Dr. Torres took a deep breath, steadying herself before she spoke. "The ship, it's not just a ship, it's a weapon, and it's here to make sure we survive what's coming. But it's not just about survival. The Phoenix, it's evolved. It's been changed by something far older than us, something beyond our understanding." She paused, trying to gather her thoughts. "The core, it's showing us what we're capable of. It's showing us a future we never thought was possible." Her voice faltered. "And it's a future we may not survive if we don't act." Lee's brow furrowed, his gaze hardening as the weight of her words sunk in. "And you think this ship is our best hope? To survive whatever's coming?" Dr. Torres nodded. "The Phoenix isn't just a survivor, it's a teacher. It's carrying something from the future, something that's been waiting for us to catch up." Commander Lee's eyes narrowed, a flicker of disbelief crossing his face. "So you're telling me that this ship, this Phoenix, has been waiting for us to evolve, and now it's time for us to... what? To change everything about ourselves?" "Yes," Dr. Torres replied, her voice steady, "but there's more. This ship, this core, it's been modified by something that's afraid of us. It's afraid of what we might become if we survive long enough. And it's here, now, to prepare us for that fight." Lee turned away from her, his fingers tightening on the edge of the console. "If we don't adapt, then we die." "Exactly, Doctor," Torres said, her eyes locked on the ship's control panel, watching the strange energy surges flicker along its surface. "But it's not just about survival, it's about evolution. We're not just fighting to live, we're fighting to become something more." For a long moment, neither of them spoke, the only sound the hum of the ship's systems, growing louder with each passing second. The future loomed ahead, vast and unknown, and somewhere in the darkness of space, something was coming. The Phoenix had returned, and its purpose was clear. But what would humanity do with this gift, or curse? Would they rise to the challenge, or would they fall before it? The silence between them was broken by a sudden burst of static on the comm system, followed by a voice crackling through. "Commander Lee, Dr. Torres, you need to see this, now." The crackling voice over the comm system sent a chill down Dr. Torres's spine. She exchanged a quick glance with Commander Lee, who immediately turned and strode toward the console. "What's going on?" he demanded, his voice tight with urgency. The voice that responded was from Lieutenant Harris, stationed in the communications room. "Something's happening with the Phoenix, sir," Harris replied, his tone urgent but strained. "It's shifting. The energy readings. I've never seen anything like this. It's like the ship is waking up, but not just that. It's interacting with something outside of the station. I can't explain it." There was a pause. Then Harris continued, his voice filled with disbelief. "The station's sensors. They're picking up strange energy patterns from the Phoenix, but they aren't coming from the core anymore. It's like the entire ship is becoming part of something else, something bigger." Dr. Torres's heart skipped a beat. She had suspected that the ship's modifications were more than just physical, but this was beyond what she could have imagined. Commander Lee exchanged a quick look with her, his face a mask of grim determination. Without a word, he turned and hurried down the corridor, Dr. Torres right behind him. They made their way through the labyrinthine hallways of Luna Base, the normally calm atmosphere now charged with tension. The sounds of hurried footsteps and panicked voices filled the air, the station's inhabitants clearly unsettled by whatever was unfolding. As they reached the communications center, Harris was already standing by the console, his eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Explain it to me again," Lee barked, his patience wearing thin. "What exactly is happening?" Harris swallowed hard, then pointed at the large screen in front of him. The station's sensor data was being fed into the monitor, and what it displayed made Dr. Torres' breath catch in her throat. The Phoenix, the once dormant, broken vessel, was now emitting a steady pulse of energy that spread outward like ripples in a pond. The ship's hull wasn't just resonating with some unknown force. It was interacting with the fabric of space itself. "Look at the spatial anomalies," Harris said, his voice trembling. "They're spreading outward, expanding from the ship's position, reaching beyond the station. The disturbance in the space-time continuum. It's unlike anything we've seen. It's like the ship is rewriting the rules of physics. And that's not all." Lee leaned forward, studying the screen closely. The pulse was unmistakable now, rising and falling in a strange rhythm, almost as if it were alive. But it wasn't just the pulse that made him uneasy. As the energy spread outward, the station's systems began to behave erratically. Lights flickered, gravity fluctuated for a moment, and alarms sounded intermittently. Dr. Torres felt a rising sense of dread. "What's causing the fluctuations?" she asked, her voice low almost to herself. "It's the ship," Harris replied, swallowing hard. "But not in the way we thought. The readings are showing something more. It's as if the Phoenix isn't just reacting to its surroundings. It's reshaping them. The whole station feels it. It's like the ship's influence is stretching out, altering the laws that govern everything around it." The room fell into a tense silence. The hum of the station's equipment and the distant sounds of base activity seemed to fade into the background as Dr. Torres absorbed the gravity of the situation. The Phoenix wasn't just alive. It was becoming something else entirely, a part of something far more dangerous, far more intricate than they could have anticipated. "Can we stop it?" Lee asked, his voice sharp with frustration and fear. "Can we do anything to shut it down?" Harris shook his head slowly, his eyes wide with disbelief. "I don't think we can. The systems are resisting everything we throw at them. It's like the Phoenix is locking us out, pushing us away. Whatever it's becoming, it's already beyond our control." Lee turned to Dr. Torres, his gaze searching. "You said the ship was trying to show us something. Something about evolution. Is this it? Is this what we're supposed to become? This power?" Dr. Torres hesitated, her mind racing. She didn't have the answers. The core had shown her the future, but It had been cryptic, fragmented visions, disjointed feelings, and concepts that were difficult to fully grasp. But one thing was clear: the Phoenix was acting as a conduit, a bridge between humanity and something far beyond them. But the implications of that were enormous. Could humanity truly evolve in the way the core had shown her? Could they survive what was coming without losing themselves in the process? "I don't know," Dr. Torres said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But the core, it's not just giving us power. It's unlocking something in us. I think it's preparing us, preparing all of us for what's coming." "And what's that?" Lee pressed. Dr. Torres closed her eyes for a moment, trying to steady herself. "The war," she replied softly. "The war that the Phoenix was pulled into, the one that hasn't reached us yet, but is coming. The one that will change everything. We're not just being given the power to survive. We're being given the power to fight." The room fell into a heavy silence. The implications of her words hung in the air, thick and oppressive. They were standing at the precipice of something they couldn't fully comprehend, a force that was greater than anything humanity had ever faced, and now it was too late to turn back. "We need to find out what's really going on with the Phoenix," Lee said, his voice calm but resolute. "If this ship is really the key to our survival, then we need to understand how to control it, how to use it, if it's not too late." Dr. Torres nodded slowly, her mind still reeling from the vision of the future she had seen. She wasn't sure if they could control it, but one thing was becoming increasingly clear. Whatever the Phoenix had become, it wasn't just a ship anymore. It was a living entity connected to something far older than the Federation, far older than Earth itself. And as they stared at the flickering lights on the monitor, Dr. Torres realized that the true battle was only just beginning. They were about to face an enemy unlike anything they had ever imagined. One that wouldn't just try to destroy them, but one that would try to erase everything they had fought for. She turned toward Lee, her expression determined. "We need to get to the core. It's the only way we can learn what's really going on. It's the key to everything." Lee nodded, and together they rushed toward the elevator, their minds already moving toward the uncertain future ahead. But as they moved, the ship's pulse grew stronger, its energy now cascading outward in waves, altering the very fabric of space around them. The Phoenix was no longer just a ship, it was an instrument of change, and whatever lay ahead, it would change everything. The corridors of Luna Base hummed with activity as Dr. Torres and Commander Lee moved swiftly toward the heart of the Phoenix. The weight of what was unfolding pressed heavily on both of them. The ship had always been a mystery, but now it was becoming a force beyond understanding. The station's staff had already started to react. Some were in panic, others in confusion, and a few, like the engineers, were desperately trying to maintain control over systems that had begun to glitch and malfunction. But there was no escaping it now. The Phoenix was changing, and so was everything around it. As they approached the docking bay where the Phoenix loomed, Dr. Torres felt a sense of unease settle deep within her. She could feel it, a pulse in the air, like the ship was alive, breathing, shifting. It was as if the Phoenix had become more than just a ship. It was a living being responding to the flow of the universe itself. There was an almost organic quality to its structure now, its surface shimmering with strange energy patterns that defied explanation. "Is this what you were expecting?" Lee asked, his voice low as they walked. "You said the ship had a purpose, but this isn't just survival. This feels like something else." Dr. Torres swallowed hard. She had expected the Phoenix to be more than just a vessel. After all, it had been modified, transformed by something not human, not of this time. But what she hadn't anticipated was just how deeply connected it had become to the fabric of reality itself. The Phoenix wasn't just going to help humanity survive, It was offering them the means to alter everything they thought they knew about existence. "No," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't expect it to be like this. The core, it's not just a power source. It's a conduit, a bridge. It's showing us what we could become, but also what we have to be to survive." Lee nodded, his brow furrowing. "You said it was preparing us for a fight. But for what? Who are we fighting?" Dr. Torres didn't have an answer to that. She didn't know exactly what kind of enemy the Phoenix had encountered before, or what kind of conflict it had been pulled into. The core had shown her visions of a war beyond the stars, a war between ancient species so far removed from humanity's understanding that they seemed almost godlike in comparison. These beings feared humanity, not because they were weak, but because humanity was unpredictable, chaotic, and capable of breaking the rules that had governed the universe for eons. "I don't know yet," Dr. Torres said, her voice trembling, "but we're about to find out. Whatever is coming, the Phoenix is part of it, and so are we." They reached the docking bay, and the sight of the Phoenix sent a shiver through Dr. Torres's spine. The ship, now standing at full height in its immense docking bay, loomed like some ancient predatory creature. Its hull shimmered with strange iridescence, and the organic patterns on its surface seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The closer they got, the more she felt the pull of the ship's energy, like it was calling to her, beckoning her to understand, to become one with it. Commander Lee stood still for a moment, his eyes fixed on the ship. "We don't even know what we're dealing with. What if it's not just about surviving the war? What if the Phoenix is changing us? What if we're becoming part of it?" Dr. Torres turned to him, her face tight with resolve. "We don't have a choice. We have to learn from it. We have to understand what the Phoenix knows, because that knowledge could be the difference between surviving and being wiped out." With that, they stepped forward, and the large bay doors of the ship slowly creaked open. As they crossed the threshold, Dr. Torres was struck by the sheer alien nature of the interior. The walls were no longer the familiar metallic surfaces of a human-built ship. Instead, they were smooth and organic, like veins woven through a living structure, pulsating with a low hum. The ship was alive, and it wasn't just a vessel, it was a being. "We need to get to the core," Dr. Torres said, her voice filled with urgency. She didn't know how much time they had left before whatever was happening inside the Phoenix reached its peak. Every second felt like an eternity as the energy within the ship built and built, growing stronger with every step they took. They moved deeper into the ship, navigating through winding corridors that seemed to shift and change, almost as if the ship was adjusting its internal layout to accommodate them. The strange, organic structure felt more like walking through the body of some enormous creature than a mechanical vessel. It was disorienting, and Dr. Torres could feel the pull of something ancient beckoning her forward. When they reached the chamber that housed the core, Dr. Torres's breath caught in her throat. It was even more magnificent than she had imagined. The core was no longer just a pulsating orb. It had grown, expanded, and was now surrounded by a field of energy so dense it seemed to warp the space around it. The entire room was filled with a low, almost melodic hum, and the walls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting like the chest of a living organism. "What is this?" Lee whispered, his voice filled with awe. It's not a ship. It's something else entirely." Dr. Torres stepped closer, feeling the immense power radiating from the core. "This is the heart of the Phoenix. It's not just a piece of technology. It's a living being, a manifestation of something far beyond human understanding." She reached out tentatively, her fingers brushing the surface of the core. Instantly, the energy around her flared, and a rush of images flooded her mind. The vision wasn't like the one she had experienced before. This time, it was clearer, more direct. She saw the war, the ancient species that had tried to destroy humanity, that had feared what humanity might become. But this time, she didn't just see the past. She saw the future, too. Humanity's future. She saw Earth as a battleground, cities reduced to rubble, the sky filled with the smoke of war. But amidst the chaos, she saw something else. A new form of humanity, one that was not entirely human anymore, but something more. These humans were connected to the Phoenix in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. Their bodies glowed with strange energy, their eyes filled with a purpose that was both terrifying and beautiful. They weren't just surviving, they were fighting back, fighting with power that shouldn't have been possible. The core pulsed once more and the vision faded. Dr. Torres staggered back, her head spinning from the flood of information. She could feel the weight of the knowledge pressing down on her, making her dizzy. "Do you see it?" she gasped, turning to Lee. "This isn't just about survival. The Phoenix is showing us what we need to become, to fight back." Commander Lee didn't respond immediately. His eyes were fixed on the core, his face pale as he processed what she had just revealed. Finally, he spoke, his voice low but filled with resolve. "Then we need to prepare. We need to understand this power before it's too late." But as he spoke, the ship seemed to shift again. The hum grew louder, more intense, and the walls trembled. Dr. Torres looked up, and a sense of dread filled her chest. Something was happening, something that had been set in motion long before they had ever boarded the Phoenix. The war was coming. "We're running out of time," Dr. Torres muttered under her breath. Her eyes were still fixed on the core, which now pulsed with a growing intensity. She could feel the energy building, a force so powerful it seemed to warp the very space around them. Her mind was racing, piecing together the fragments of the visions she had seen. The future was changing, bending in ways she couldn't yet grasp. What had the core meant when it showed her the rise of this new form of humanity? What was humanity's role in this war that was unfolding? Was the Phoenix really preparing them to fight back, or was it something else entirely? Lee had no answers, but he was determined to find them. "Dr. Torres, we need to leave now. Whatever's happening, it's not something we can control. We need to get to the command center. We need to know what's going on outside the ship. Maybe we can still salvage this." But Dr. Torres didn't move. She couldn't. The core had a hold on her, pulling her deeper into its mystery. It wasn't just a piece of alien technology. It was a living, breathing entity that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations, and it was showing her the future. Her future, humanity's future. And what it had revealed wasn't just about survival. It was about something much darker. "Commander, I can't leave," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to understand. The core is showing us what's to come. If we don't act now, if we don't understand it, we might lose everything. I think it's trying to teach us." Lee turned sharply, his face hardening. "Teach us? It's a weapon, Dr. Torres. This ship, this core, it's not some kind of cosmic lesson. It's a harbinger, a warning. It's showing us that we're not ready for what's coming." "I don't think it's a warning," she replied, stepping closer to the pulsating orb. "I think it's trying to prepare us. It's showing us the way we can survive, but it's up to us to choose." Her voice was barely above a whisper, but Lee heard every word. The truth of what she was saying crashed over him, but his mind was still struggling to comprehend it. He couldn't tear his gaze from the glowing orb at the center of the room. The Phoenix had changed, and with it, everything around them was changing. What was once just an abandoned ship was now an active force, reshaping the reality around them, and that power was calling them, urging them to embrace something greater, but Lee wasn't ready for it. He wasn't ready to lose himself in this alien vision. "We have no choice," Dr. Torres continued, her eyes locked on the core. "This ship, this core, it's showing us how we can evolve, how we can fight back against whatever's coming. We've seen glimpses of it. The war, the enemies we'll face. We can't just sit here and wait for it to happen. The core has given us a glimpse into the future. It's given us the power to change it." Lee didn't respond immediately. His eyes flicked nervously to the walls of the chamber, which were now glowing with the same eerie light as the core. Something had shifted in the ship. It was no longer just a machine. It had become something more. It was alive, and it was calling them to change with it. Suddenly, a sharp crackle of static filled the room, and a voice came over the comms system. It was Lieutenant Harris, his voice strained with urgency. "Commander Lee, Dr. Torres, this is urgent. You need to see this." The tone of his voice told them everything they needed to know. They weren't dealing with a problem that could be fixed with a few adjustments. This was something much bigger, and whatever was happening, it was unfolding faster than they could respond. "What is it, Harris?" Lee demanded, his voice now edged with concern. "What's happening outside?" Harris's voice crackled again, and when he spoke, his words were laced with disbelief. There's something out there, beyond the Phoenix. The sensors are picking up strange energy signatures, and it's not like anything we've seen. It's like the Phoenix is calling to them. Whatever it is, they're responding. They're coming." "Coming?" Dr. Torres repeated, her heart racing. "Who is coming? What are you talking about?" Harris's voice was filled with fear now. "It's a fleet, but not like anything we've ever encountered. These ships, they're enormous, and they're not using any kind of recognizable propulsion. The energy signatures, this isn't Federation tech. This isn't anything human." Dr. Torres's blood ran cold as she looked at Lee, whose face had gone pale. The core. It had shown her visions of enemies, vast, ancient species that had watched humanity grow, watched them reach beyond their boundaries, and feared what they might become. The war had already started, even if they hadn't realized it yet. And now, those enemies were coming. "What do we do?" Lee asked, his voice now filled with urgency and fear. "We prepare," Dr. Torres said, her voice steady despite the storm raging in her chest. "We don't wait for them to come to us. We make our stand now before it's too late." But as she spoke, the core began to pulse again, louder this time, shaking the walls around them. It was as if the Phoenix itself was awakening, responding to the approaching threat. Dr. Torres reached out to touch the core again, her fingers brushing the surface of the glowing orb. Immediately, the flood of images returned. Visions of a battlefield unlike any she had ever imagined. The future was here, and it was coming for them. The visions were overwhelming, flooding Dr. Torres's mind in an intense rush of images, sounds, and sensations. She saw endless stars flickering out as vast fleets of alien ships descended from the dark expanse of space. Their forms were like nothing she had ever seen. Huge, organic, and biomechanical, like creatures of some ancient race. Their weapons flared with unnatural light, destroying planets and tearing through space itself as if nothing could stop them. And in the midst of it all, she saw humanity, a small, chaotic force, fighting back with everything they had, using weapons and tools that should never have existed. But the vision shifted. She saw herself and Commander Lee standing together, not as mere survivors, but as something else entirely. They were part of the change, part of the evolution. Their bodies hummed with power, their minds connected to the core, their every action coordinated, deliberate, and swift. They were no longer just humans. They had become something more. The core pulsed once again, as if affirming this future. The message was clear. Humanity was on the verge of an awakening. But the question remained, would they rise to the challenge? Would they fight back, or would they be consumed by the coming storm? Dr. Torres stumbled back from the core, her mind reeling. The ship, the core, the future, they were all one, linked together in a way she had yet to fully understand. She looked over at Lee, whose face was etched with concern and determination. The weight of what they had just seen hung heavy in the air like a tangible presence. "We have to prepare," Dr. Torres said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "The enemy is coming, and we need to be ready. The Phoenix, this ship, this power, it's not just here to help us survive. It's here to help us fight back." Lee nodded, his eyes narrowing with resolve. "We can't let them win. We can't let them wipe us out. We've been given a chance, a way to fight." They turned and rushed toward the control room, their footsteps echoing through the shifting corridors of the Phoenix. The ship seemed to be alive, responding to their movements as if it were guiding them, preparing them for what lay ahead. The tension in the air was palpable. Every step they took brought them closer to the unknown, but they knew that they couldn't turn back. Inside the control room, the screens flickered to life, showing data that was growing more chaotic by the second. Harris's voice crackled over the comms again, panic now creeping into his tone. "Commander, Dr. Torres, you need to see this. They're getting closer. The ships, they're almost here." Dr. Torres's heart raced as she looked at the display. The enemy fleet, vast and unstoppable, was on the move. There was no time to waste. The Phoenix had already begun to shift, to adapt in ways they couldn't fully comprehend. Its hull shimmered with strange energy, the ship's systems now fully integrated with the core. The fusion of alien technology and human ingenuity had created something formidable, something that could stand against whatever was coming. "We have to act now," Lee said, his voice unwavering. "If we wait any longer, we'll be wiped out before we even get a chance to fight." Dr. Torres stepped forward, her fingers moving across the control panel, activating the ship's weapon systems and defense protocols. The Phoenix's systems hummed to life, as if responding to her touch, unlocking technologies that had been dormant for far too long. She could feel the power surging through her, through the ship, as the core's energy flowed into her very being. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. The future was now in their hands. The enemy fleet was closing in fast, their ships like dark shadows against the stars. There was no escape, no place to hide. But the Phoenix wasn't running. It was standing its ground, ready to face the oncoming storm. "We're ready, Doctor," Torres said, her voice filled with a quiet determination. She could feel the connection between herself, Lee, and the ship growing stronger. Together they were no longer just two individuals. They were part of something far larger, something that could change the course of history. Outside, the enemy fleet appeared in full view, their ships like massive leviathans of the void, each one larger than anything humanity had ever constructed. Their weapons flared with deadly energy as they opened fire, but the Phoenix was ready. It moved with a fluid grace, adapting to every attack, its energy shields deflecting the blasts, its weapons responding with an intensity that was almost beyond comprehension. "Target them," Lee commanded, his voice steady as he surveyed the battle unfolding outside. "We have to take them down before they can reach Luna." Dr. Torres focused, her hands flying across the controls. The ship responded, unleashing a barrage of energy beams that tore through the enemy fleet with surgical precision. The Phoenix wasn't just fighting back, it was rewriting the laws of war itself, using weapons and technologies that were far beyond anything the enemy could understand. But the enemy didn't retreat. They pressed forward, their ships charging through the hail of energy blasts, relentless in their pursuit. The Phoenix fired again, but this time the core pulsed more intensely. the energy around them building to a crescendo. This isn't just a fight, Dr. Torres realized. This is the beginning of something much bigger. The Phoenix, it's not just protecting us, it's transforming us. We're becoming part of the war. The battle raged on, the sky above Luna Base now a swirling mass of energy and destruction. The Federation ships that had once been Earth's defenders were now useless, outmatched by the alien fleet and the might of the Phoenix. But the ship wasn't just surviving, it was evolving, adapting in real time, unlocking new potential with every passing second. Lee watched in awe as the Phoenix unleashed another wave of destruction, the core's power now fully integrated with their own minds. They could feel it, the power, the drive, the purpose. They were no longer just fighting to survive. They were fighting to change the course of history, to redefine humanity's place in the universe. And as the battle continued, Dr. Torres felt a surge of clarity. The core had shown her the way. Humanity was no longer just a small, fragile species at the mercy of the universe. They were evolving into something far greater. The war wasn't just about winning, it was about becoming. For the first time, Dr. Torres wasn't afraid. She was ready. The Phoenix surged forward, its energy pulsing through the very fabric of space. The enemy fleet had underestimated them, and now they were going to learn the price of that mistake. The future had arrived, and humanity was no longer a prey species. They had become the apex.